Third Degree Net Podcast. The Third Degree Net Podcast. The Third Degree Net Podcast.
Third Degree, the podcast, is brought to you by Soccer 90. Now, Soccer 90 is your source for all the U.S. national team gear, FC Dallas gear, and club gear from pretty much anywhere around the world, like Chivas, Chelsea, Juventus, and even the new USA stuff. And because you are a Third Degree listener that is so beloved, you get 25% off your order when you use the code Third Degree at checkout over at soccer90.com. Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan. Welcome to another joyful, happy, elated, celebratory episode of Third Degree, the podcast. Why? Because since we last talked to you, there have been not one, but two road games, and from that, Dallas and Lucci have gotten their first 4 road points of the season. Yes, that means they actually won a game on the road. And to talk all about it, first off, my good friend, Dan Crook. Come in, Dan.
Hey, Peter, how's it going?
I am delighted.
Absolutely wonderful to hear.
I don't believe you. And the editor and founder, your hero and mine of thirddegree.net, the good Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Hi, Peter, calling in from Miami, where I just brokered a deal between Messi and Beckham.
Man, that is what shook the world today. News that Messi is not staying at Barcelona. So I have to be honest, I learned on my radio show a week ago that La Liga had a spending cap. I did not know that. Did you know this?
No.
They do unless your name's Real Madrid. And then the government writes you a little note and it's all's good.
Yeah, they actually have it's not a salary cap, it's an overall spending cap, and what makes it unusual is that it's tied, well, not unusual, it's not like you're thinking about like MLS where everybody can only spend so much. It's a percentage of your revenue, almost like financial fair play was intended to be. And that is what is keeping Barcelona from being able to do the deal that they agreed with Messi. So we spent the better. I didn't either. I totally was caught off guard, and so we spent the better part of a day having to suffer through every soccer club social media guy posting a picture of Messi in their jersey.
Yeah. Well, I knew about the fair play thing. I didn't realize that was related to, retention of a player. I guess. I mean, you would have thought that was a guy that was under contract before. You just sort of roll over a new deal or whatever that wouldn't be impacted by that, but. I mean, obviously, we've all seen the many reports about Barcelona being absolutely decimated financially, and to be honest with you, they probably need to get out from underneath Messi's contract anyway. Probably better off.
The statement was funny because at the end they just kind of chipped in unless La Liga changes the rules.
I'm sure they did, yeah.
And at the same time, Real Madrid posted something about, I don't know if you saw the whole CVC partners buy in a percentage of the league, and Real Madrid released a statement like almost coordinated attacking La Liga for accepting the deal and signing away a portion of their rights for the next 50 years for like $2 billion or whatever it is.
It is certainly a mess, and when you think about all of the noise coming from Big 12 colleges that are complaining about A&M and UT leaving the Big 12 and how it'll impact them financially, imagine being one of the La Liga teams that now doesn't get to have Messi come to town once a year. Think about the financial impact of that.
Oof. Oh, yeah. The whole league as a collective is going to lose a massive amount of revenue. Or if you're ESPN that just signed La Liga, right?
Yeah.
You just paid a bunch of money, and now he's going to be in England.
Well, it does raise an interesting question if he shows up at, if he ends up showing up at in Miami because he's been hanging out there for the last however long, if they could actually pull that off now. I don't know.
Surely he has a couple of years left to benefit somebody like a Man City who would pay him obscene amounts of money. Not quite ready for Inter Miami, maybe.
Yeah, I was joking on social media earlier today that Pep was running around looking for his Grealish emergency brake so that he could pull it. Wait a second. Hold up. Wait a second. Oh, well. Okay, that's all that stuff.
We lost the signed copy. It's void. Oh. Yeah.
Our dog ate the contract. We can't do the deal anymore. Sorry. Jack, you're going to have to go back to Villa. Well, it's nice to be in a good mood because, as I said, Dallas has gotten points from their last two games. First off, a road trip to Kansas City and the evil Peter Vermees, who looks more and more like Herman Munster as every season goes by. And we love nothing more than watching Peter Vermees just lose his collective shit every time he thinks something they've been aggrieved in some way, shape, or form. And boy, howdy, did he have a full of it at the game on earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that Sporting plays Dallas, Peter Vermees thinks he's been aggrieved. Now, there's probably been some occasions where he has been, but there certainly have been lots of occasions where he hasn't, and he sure thinks he is, and I've never seen somebody get upset, and I would understand it when the coach you're going up against has only won 6 road games ever, and 3 of them are against you, and then you add in the game last year here when Dallas beat them 6-0. I'm sure for whatever reason, Vermees cannot stand the fact that he loses to Lucci all the time.
Must drive him nuts. Now, we have to admit up front that, Buzz, you have not – I can't believe of all the games in the world that you somehow bonked on recording it and then get, blocked because of the stupid streaming rules. You didn't get to see this game.
No, I'm still working on a way to try and watch it. Like I might try a VPN, or if I can get somebody through my media sources to post the game for me. There's ways for me to watch it. I just haven't been able to do it yet because things are moving really fast. But it is one I missed, but from talking to various people, I think it's similar enough to the game that came in Seattle that we can talk about this team as a collective, and Dan certainly can bring in a lot to the table for the Sporting game.
Yeah, Dan and I will fill you on the SKC thing. Dan, you go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't actually that good. No, you know how FC Dallas and SKC games go. It's a whole lot of pushing, shoving, crying about penalties that weren't given, mostly Peter Vermees. Yeah, I mean, like you said, what you saw in Seattle was a lot similar, a lot of pumping crosses in, kind of just trying to really press, well, not a high press, but, have that kind of like mid-block and not exactly penetrate the back line. Up front, again, not getting a whole lot of chances. The SKC game, really, you just had a couple of moments where they laid off of Pepe and Jesus and Paxton on the goals. But yeah, it was kind of weird because it was like, first road points, first road win. Wasn't really that interesting a game to watch, so kind of left a hollow feeling.
Yeah, it was an odd deal. Now, obviously, with Paxton scoring so early in the game on a really nice opportunity, his weaker foot, by the way, from distance, it was one of those deals where you watch him and you're like, man, I hope he turns and shoots, and then he does it. And just caught everybody by surprise. It was such a nice start to the game. And then Jesus, kind of very early in the second half, something very similar, takes a really good opportunity, and people just making those kind of moments. Buzz, we talk about this a lot in this league, which is what differentiates the teams that are successful from the ones that are not, is they have difference makers. And in this particular game, to me, those two moments are the types of things that we, by and large, have really seen missing from Dallas for quite some time.
I saw the Paxton goal, saw a clip of that, and that is a astonishing goal. Why you would leave those two guys open sort of, in that, whatever that zone 14 is right outside the box there where they're their most dangerous is a good question. I will tell you that last week when I went to training, Lucci had the team working on a very specific tactical adaptation for when they were high on top of Kansas City. Because Lucci talked to the team, and I could hear him from the sideline, which, I only talked about it afterwards now, is that they talked a lot about how probably one of the holding mids, and it was probably Busio the last time they played Kansas City, was having a lot of joy coming out of the back. So they made an adaptation where one of the two holders, and it was going to be Edwin, was going to check about 15 yards higher and try and stifle that guy. So it's entirely possible that tactic actually is what moving Cirillo, and I'm talking about in a high press now when you're in the Kansas City end, moving him up to check that ball coming out of their end is probably what's creating a lot of the pressure that's leading to Jesus or Paxton being open in those situations and finding joy and finding space.
So the first goal did come from something similar to that, but it was Brisson and then Ryan stepping up into the midfield to do the overload rather than Cirillo.
Yeah, so it's nice sometimes when you see, and as much as we bag Lucci for mistakes, clearly this was, I even mentioned it, I think last week when in the podcast, that they had worked on a tactical adaptation. I think I even mentioned it. And this is what it was this idea of having these extra players step in and not letting Kansas City get out of their end very well. So when he does an adaptation that does work, and again, I didn't watch that game, but from the description, it sounds like it did work. So that's a nice moment for Lucci.
The game was, we talked about these two games being similar, and they were. What's dissimilar about them is that players that played well, not everybody, but there are certain players that played well in Kansas City that didn't play well in Seattle. But Dallas did do typically what Lucci has them do in these games, which is play more defensively, try to help stifle the ability to really create inside the box, like really kind of leaving teams left only with an option of kind of crossing balls in. But man, if there's been one really outstanding shining light through both of these games is Tafari, who really has just grown leaps and bounds in front of our eyes over these games. And for him to be able to go to his hometown or where he went to school and play so well in front of that Seattle crowd, including of having the game-tying assist, man, has got to be the one thing that Lucci has taken away from this week and filled the best about.
That kid's been so good lately that I'm now 100% in on, even if Martinez and Hedges are healthy, both of them, I think Nicosi should keep his spot. He's been so good that he doesn't deserve to be dropped, even with both those other guys healthy. Now, which one you would pick him to play it with? Probably Hedges, I would assume. Even Tafari's weaknesses, which was his passing initially, have come up leaps and bounds, and his long passing in particular, which I watched him work on extra with a coach after training the other day. He's aware of what his own weaknesses are and seeking to improve them. So you got to love a progression like this. You got to love a guy coming good like this. Mm-hmm. 2 months ago, we had no idea this kid could play, and now he looks like fantastic.
All right, Dan, now I'm interested to know if you agree or disagree that my personal feeling is that if you were to take these two games and combine them together, the man of the matches, in my opinion, is Falco. I just think he has been this quiet, consistent force in the middle of the field. You don't see him very often, but man, I think he's really started to show his value as a signing for this club.
I thought you were gonna plug my little feature on Nicosi then.
We'll come back to that, Dan. Don't worry.
No, I think Faku has for sure. He was everywhere yesterday, and it's more so on the attacking side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball. And I felt like in SKC it was kind of flipped the other way around, just with the makeup of their team being a little bit more narrow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, he's had a few games like that where he just kind of swoops in a bit unnoticed, which honestly, a defensive midfielder, you don't want to notice too much. 'Cause if you notice them too much, you're either getting hammered or they're screwing up.
Fair to say at this point that he's had the adjustment to the league stage of the season over?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a world beater, right? I'm not even still sure he's even as good as Thiago Santos was, and he's certainly not Carlos Grazo. But he's been a solid addition to the team and an improvement for a space that they needed. He just, it was interesting that we were talking about these games being similar. What was different about them was how, and Dan kind of intimated about this, was the difference between Cerrillo and Faco kind of changing positions. In one game, one was kind of was playing a little deeper than the other, but in this game, you saw the inverse of that, which was Faco kind of going forward and getting into some interchange play further up the field, and I thought that was interesting.
I don't know if that's just Farkas showing leadership because, Surya had a great game at the weekend and really struggled
in
yesterday.
Seattle.
So, maybe he had to take the reins and kind of say, all right, well, I can play both sides of the ball, so, you sit back. Which, I mean, if that's the case, amazing. Yeah, that was kind of it. Yeah. And when I said before, you don't want to notice your defensive midfielder, it sounded I remember a coach telling me years ago, just in watching the game, a quiet game can be a good thing in certain positions, and that's one that you want it to be quiet. You want to notice them when they do something good, but you don't want to be like, when you watch Busio star for SKC, well, previously, there that's not always a good thing. That's not a position you want to be dictating the show. You want to have those games where you had it with guys like Thiago Santos or Carlos Grosso, where they go a bit quiet and then they make a huge tackle, they make a great pass, and then they don't feature too much because they're just kind of in there sort of steering the ship a little bit.
Well, we'll kind of tie up the Kansas City game. 2 amazing goals, a lot of really, really tough and rough defensive work. Jimmy Maurer came up just peaches once again and is having arguably an MVP season for the team. He's really just coming up big all the time and playing quite well. And I don't know anything else about the Kansas City game in particular, Dan, that we should throw out there that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I kind of had from it was how good Shun was. I've seen a bit of criticism about his team concepts. I think, they had a very clear plan to target Graham Zusi in Kansas City, and he was definitely the right guy for that job. Struggled a little bit in Seattle, and conversely, but they were flipping the wings. Whether he was going left or right, Shun was just a beast. He was that guy that we saw that we briefly saw at the Euros and wanted to have him back.
Well, Buzz, the best part of the Kansas City game, besides driving Peter Vermees bonkers and getting him to make Herman Munster face repeatedly, is the fact that Lucci clearly put a plan in place and got the teams to execute it on the road, and getting a win on the road is always a good thing, even if it's the first time all year. So really, winning is fun, as we like to say, and that particular game in Kansas City turned out quite well.
Yeah, winning is always better than losing. The difference, I think, with the current roster like that we're seeing of the last couple of games, there's this young front they all talk about, and other than Shun, 3 of those 4 guys, and if you include Edwin, that you include him in there too. Nkosi is not a homegrown, but Tuamasi's been here for a couple of years. It's like you're looking at younger guys who all probably actually listen to Lucci. It's somebody commented the other day that they were surprised that maybe players don't all do what the coach tells them to do all the time. And I was like, well, yeah. And sometimes those old guys really don't, So it's the current group is tuned in and listening and engaged, I think, and is executing the game plan. And sometimes there's something to be said for that. And certainly there's also something to be said for the fact that Paxton is healthy-ish, and he's a player that can change games.
I think he's better. He's more than healthy-ish. I think he's running what? Dan, would you say about 85%?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, he's getting good minutes. He's making some great contributions. I would say it's a lot easier to listen to preachy stuff when you're playing well, and it's not so tough luck, guys. Better luck next time.
Yeah. Buzz, it's funny you bring all this up because the big takeaway for me from this week has been the fact that the starting lineup has, by and large, been made up of kids, and the veterans, Vargas, Hara, Obrian, Acosta in the Seattle game, all started the game on the bench, and the heavy lifting was done by homegrowns and the young guys. And in Seattle, while the overall performance was not as good as it was in Kansas City, the travel and the wear and tear and tiredness, they did get the job done. And it just continues to make me wonder how long this trend is going to. If Lucci does feel like he has the latitude to stick with this, and if the locker room will accept it.
Well, certainly a tie in Seattle is, if nothing else, a moral victory. As bad as the results Dallas has always had there, getting any kind of result there at all is a, quote, win. So that he basically has 2 really good games in his favor. And when you do that, as a coach, you're suddenly empowered to be able to continue to do what you're doing. Certainly, Pepe's play means that now Lucci has all the juice in the world to stick with him as long as he wants to. Unless the kid never scores again, then you maybe have to revisit that. But if he continues to play the way he's playing, that's easy. Paxton, the way he's playing, that's easy. Shun was a little bit of a non-factor in Seattle, but that was more out of passivity by Dallas than it was Shun himself. Of course, he's going up against Roldan, who's pretty good. But, Edwin had a great game, apparently, in Sporting, and then was a bit of a step back in the Seattle game. Maybe he's feeling the pressure of watching Acosta get warmed up and ready to come into the game. Tuamasi looks pretty good at right back. Remember, that was the plan over the winter. I've talked about that a couple of times. Tafari's coming on at center back. Hollingshead is a little more focused on defense than normal, maybe because the offense is looking really good, so he's not getting beat behind like he was before. So a lot of the problems this team had a month and a half ago are fixing themselves. Now, is this a playoff team? Well, we're going to find out in the long run. Maybe it is, but it's certainly much better than it was even a month ago. And that empowers the coach to stick with it.
Well, it's funny because today there are starting, because the transfer window is closing here in a very short period of time. There are clubs making signings, and you look and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that! Look who signed! Look who they got! Oh, that's going to make them better. And then you think, oh, well, we've got Vargas.
Yeah, it actually closed like an hour ago.
Yeah. Okay. So it is, okay. So like I said, very short period of time.
Yeah.
Negatively. Anyway, but Dallas has made the signings they've made, and they haven't turned out. But the fact that Lucci is able to still get points, even against a lesser Seattle side on the road, is still an accomplishment for this team.
Peter, you and I have talked for years and years and years about the idea that could you build a team with homegrowns and young talents and make those guys the face of your team. And we talked about that it might take a couple of years of growing pains for that to happen and that to work. And it maybe the last couple of years with Lucci, we've worked through that now, especially with the front 4 or 5 guys. And maybe there's a chance that you really can build forward with homegrowns and not have to go back to those veterans. If O'Brien can just be an off-the-bench, change-of-pace guy, that's fine. If Hara continues to work hard in training, which he has, he's not rocked the boat. He's been a good professional if he continues to do that. If Vargas has got a couple of off-field things going on that he needs to get straightened out, but, he's such a young guy, he's not going to be a big headache. Ricarte also, even though he's been on the bench, has shown himself to be a true professional and been ready when he's come into games. So really, there's not anybody right now among these veterans that's causing a stink, that's rocking the boat. And that also allows Lucci to continue doing what he's doing.
All right. So what I'll be interested in, since we're talking about the Seattle game, is that clearly the shift in the game for Dallas came when Lucci started making all of the substitution changes. And off came all the kids, and on came all the veterans, including Acosta and Hara and Vargas and O'Brien. What differences did you notice in the team between those two versions in the game?
Well, Seattle had scored. Seattle quit playing high. Once they scored, they were like, we're better than Dallas, and they stopped playing the way they were playing. The biggest change tactically is that, and I did this in my instant reaction, was that in the first 2/3 of the game, basically, Dallas was doing what they sometimes do when they go to the Pacific Northwest, is they play sort of passively in this low block. And we've talked many times about you can be in a low block and still be proactive. And what happens when they play passively is that Jesus comes further and further and further back looking for the ball. Well, that neutralizes him. It makes him ineffective, and he gets taken out for Acosta in the 60th minute. You bring Acosta on, who's more of a builder linker, that got better. Now, granted, they played him a little bit higher, of course, but still, he's a guy that's looking to play the ball forward. Also, that passivity, particularly Jesus coming back, leaves Pepe on an island. So the whole team, because Seattle then started sitting back, the whole team came out of their end, began to have a little bit of possession, and it was so much possession that the possession stat completely flipped, and Dallas ended up with 52% possession on that game, which is unbelievable if you watched it. It's like they didn't hardly have the ball at all for the first 2/3 of the game. So it was a combination of Seattle thinking they had it wrapped up when they didn't, and a couple of guys that are more willing to create and link forward and play forward out of the back. That sort of changed the whole thing, and it really was mostly because of Acosta.
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
I was going to say, I did like the changes. I thought the Acosta switch was a little bit odd at first, just with the positional differences. But, definitely getting an older head and a good passer on the ball. Pepe was struggling against Yamar. Everyone was struggling against Yamar. That guy was insane.
Yeah, he was.
But yeah, getting Hara on for his hold-up play, switching the wingers out, getting a little more pace to go around the outside. Because we saw it in the first half. They were, like you say, they were trying to be positive while playing passively, trying to get Shun and Pomykal in behind the wing backs in that back five. They weren't having a great deal of success, and then they tried playing over the top to Pepe, and he was just getting bullied. So yeah, it made more sense. Get some pace in there, get a little bit of additional strength, and yeah, I mean the goal obviously didn't really come of it, but I mean even immediately after the substitutions, there was Yamar took out Obrian. Acosta's free kick. Acosta has the free kick. They immediately have that great chance with Quignon having that ball clawed back off the line by Cleveland, who didn't have a whole lot to do but had a great game in his moments. Yeah, I mean, people pan Lucci for his subs, but they were well timed. They were reactionary, which he doesn't really like to do. He likes to be proactive, but still, they were well timed. They were appropriate, and they were effective.
I'm not sure whether it was a tactical adjustment on Lucci's part or whether it was a symptom of Seattle sitting back more, and maybe because Obrian was in front of him. But Tuamasi spent the last third of the game almost like as a wide midfielder. Like Hollingshead was staying back, so it was almost like a 3 kind of because Tafari was sliding over. And Ema went much higher and was playing up underneath Obrian and actually sometimes getting wide of him and playing in combination play, like a modern outside attacking back. So whether that was a team concept or it just sort of happened because of the way they were trying to get back in the game, that was pretty indicative.
Were they trying to keep Smith up the field, like trying to keep him from cheating too far forward, maybe?
Certainly that could be a part of it. Ema has the pace to be able to run up and down the field with Smith. Like Smith got him once or twice, but he also was able to run with him a couple of times. And even if you don't get him marked one-on-one, you at least keep him busy and occupied. And Obrian's not going to help Tuamasi any defensively. So, Tuamasi knows he has to do the whole thing by himself. But there was some nice verticality there, particularly like in the first 2/3, I said, when they were all sitting back, Tuamasi wasn't really doing that. He wasn't getting forward. He was sitting way deep, wide but deep. And then over the last third of the game, he might as well have been like Ronnie O'Brien up there on right midfield playing. And O'Brien was cutting in so much it was opening up the wing for him. So it was either a tactical plan that worked or it was an adjustment the players made on the field, and that was part of what worked.
Well, there was a big difference in Seattle when Brad Smith came on the field. He's a significant jump in quality for them.
Yeah, no question, but I don't think he destroyed Dallas or anything. There was a couple times Tafari came and covered up for Tuamasi when he got caught up, and they worked pretty well with that, in fact.
I think, I definitely lean towards that being more of a player adjustment. Tafari was one of the players that came up for media availability, and he said, I went up for the corner, and honestly, Seattle would kind of abandon the left at times, or their left, so the Dallas right at times. So he just sat there, and it just so happened the ball fell to him. They were definitely hitting on Roldan through the game, trying to get that right side going.
So, after a stretch and a period of Dallas giving up a lot of set pieces, it felt like a little bit in this stretch that Dallas had worked a lot of that out. But once again, they give up a goal on a set piece somewhat softly. I think Montero does a good job to get his head on the ball. I just wonder if this is going to continue to be a source of an issue for Lucci moving forward.
Well, they had 31 crosses to 13, which is a lot. Tafari's looking to be pretty good in the air. Brisson, statistically, he does win a fair number of headers, but I think it's just because he's playing center back. I don't put Brisson up there as a great aerial guy. Like, I feel like he gets beat on corners more often than other people does. Mm-hmm. So it's the kind of thing I think that when you get a Hedges back, and maybe a Martinez back, that'll clean up some of that a little bit. And Tafari's doing a great job of it for the most part. Anyway, like he got beat on the corner. Well, I don't know that he got beat on the corner. The man he was marking was in front of him, and Martero came over Tafari's back. And after the goal, you can see Tafari turn around and go, "Where the hell did that guy come from?"
That's basically he said that after the game. He tried taking the blame for that. I mean, Montero was Pepe's guy, and Pepe was just watching the ball.
Yeah.
Brisson lost his guy as well, so you've got Tafari with 3 guys coming at him, attacking the ball. I mean, he's got no chance there.
Yeah,
that's the fifth set piece goal now this season,
something like that. I do wonder, because I've seen this trotted out quite a bit in the last few weeks, which is the number of clearances Tafari has had over a course of these games, and everybody's like, "Man, these numbers are amazing." And then somebody was like, that's actually a sign of good defense. That if the only thing teams can do are cross the ball in, and then I think, man, I don't know. That number of crosses just tells me there's a team that's just sitting back and playing low block and not keeping the ball at all. So I guess my question is, should we be celebrating Tafari having 11 billion clearances over the course of a game? I'm not sure that's the stellar stat many people are making it out to be.
No, and Kansas City had 35 crosses. It definitely is not. That's part of what I'm talking about when I talk about the passivity. Like, you can play in a low block, but you still need to be aggressive. You still need to get out on guys and deny crosses. You still need to press and run your press triggers, because you can press from a deep block. It doesn't have to be a high press. You can low press. So it's like that aggressiveness and that denial of balls in, and the denial of combinations out in front of you. Because remember, they had a problem a while ago with shots from midfielders that were crashing in that weren't getting tracked. Again, that was passivity. So it's like those are both symptoms of things you don't want, and a sign that there still is some work to do defensively with this team. This is why it's still not a great team. It's still a team with lots of things to be worked on. So something to get better at for sure. But I don't want to blame Tafari for this, because he's playing very active and very aggressive, and I love what I'm seeing with him.
I was going to ask this question based on a comment you made earlier in this episode, which was even if Hedges and Martinez both come back healthy, you think Tafari keeps his position, which then begged me to wonder suddenly, oh no, that means Lucci's going back to 3 in the back?
Oh, well, I think he should keep his spot. I have no idea if he will or not. Certainly, I actually think 3 in the back is a legitimate option. Lucci likes it. He likes it particularly on the road. I was watching Seattle play. Basically, they play that same system. The trick is your 3 center backs have to be able to actually play by themselves. It literally has to be 3 in the back. If it's 5 in the back, then we all hate it. If it's actually 3 and your wingbacks are legitimately wingbacks playing up in midfield, so that you have 5 in midfield, or if it's a 3-4-3 that you have 4 with those guys narrow, you have to have the right number of bodies in there so you can control the midfield. Sure, it's legitimately possible. I think it was so bad earlier in the year because the wings wouldn't do it right. The question will be, does Lucci think Paxton and Shun can do it? Because then you might see it happen, because we know that he thinks Acosta in there with Faco is better, right? A 6-8 look instead of a double 6 look, so we'll see. It's certainly an option. I'll have to, this is one of those ones where I'm going to go to training and see what they're trying. Because he's been so good. You have to balance, who am I taking off to get him in? And the answer might be like, are you going to pull Jesus or are you going to pull Shone? It's going to be one of those 2 guys, because you're not taking off Pepe or Paxton, right? So do you lose a 10 or do you lose a wing?
Yeah.
To bring on, to keep Tafari on, or do you just leave Martinez on the bench and go with Hedges? Or if Hedges is not healthy, go with Martinez.
Interesting. Yeah, those will be good questions going to go forward. All right, so speaking of guys you're going to take off the field, I'm just going to ask the question because it needs to be addressed. Was Brissan's shirt tug on Montero, should it have been called as a PK? Buzz?
Probably by the rule of the law, probably. I don't, they kind of are. This is the way VAR works, right? If they're going to look at something like that where the referee is right on top of it or relatively on top of it, they're not going to overrule him unless it's really, really obvious, because it makes him look really bad, right? So it's like, if it's close, they're not going to ever overrule the guy. I think there's so much clutching and grabbing that a lot of times for me, like, a lot of that stuff can just be like, it's like, unless.
But a guy with a ball dribbling straight at your goalkeeper, who's beating your center back.
Yeah, it depends on whether he actually. Listen, probably, yeah, I'm sure that's the answer, but I'm not going to complain.
All right, but does Montero deserve credit for not just dropping to the ground? Because we all know that if he does what most players do, feel that shirt tug and just let himself go, that's a penalty kick.
For my enjoyment of the game, I'm glad he doesn't go down. I'm sure that Seattle wishes he had. I'm a guy that believes in like a play on, like if the player's in on goal and he stays up, then he's chosen to stay up. Therefore, he gets to go and have his opportunity. And if he misses it, I'm not going to then bring it back out and give him the PK. So, like, by him choosing to stay up, he's saying to the referee, I got this. You know what I mean? So there's kind of like a little bit of an invisible dialogue happening there in my mind.
Yeah, he's given up the claim of a penalty because it didn't actually impede him in any way. I mean, whether that's he pulled clear or Brisson let go.
See, how do you know that for sure? Because that's my one remaining question in it, is that I can't tell definitively if the shirt pull has any effect on his ability to shoot the ball. Because he doesn't get a good strike. That's more of a crummy shot than a Morrow save.
Well, he ran clear of it before he had the shot. But just the fact, you don't play advantage on a penalty, right? So the fact that he's then completed the action, he's had the shot, and he's fluffed it. It's kind of like saying, "Hey, no," like Buzz is saying, I'm good. This is it. We're playing on. If I'm sure Seattle fans were crying about red card for denial of goal scoring opportunity, all this crap. If I was a Seattle fan, I'd be pretty pissed at him because I think there's times where players can be too honest, where you have to show, hey, he didn't do anything that was necessarily changing the game, but by the letter of the law, that's what it should be. Same as I think, it kind of balanced out with the Yamar thing where he goes down with the little shoulder barge on Hedges and then grabs the ball. Letter of the law, that's a penalty. No referee in their right mind is going to say that's a handball. They're just going to say the easy call's a free kick to Seattle.
Well, I mean, these are all different instances. I think in that particular scenario, the call was made that their legs got tangled up, and that's why he called the foul on Hedges, not because of the shoulder barge, right? So that's how he gets away from going. That's how he gets out of having to call a handball in the box by him picking up the ball, because he can say, look, from my point of view, they came together at the shoulders. Ryan's legs got tangled in his, and the guy fell over. That's why I'm calling the foul against him. I get that. But in the Brisson-Montero situation, Montero's beat him clean. Brisson, for some weird reason, decides to grab his jersey, pulls it away from his body. I think, there's a lot of ways to interpret the law, right? But in my mind, we are doing the game a disservice if you're then forced to make the player make a decision. Do I fall to the ground and take a penalty kick, or B, do I try to score this goal, which I may not have a very good opportunity? I'd love to know what the XG on that particular opportunity was, because I'm going to guess it's relatively low based on how far away from Morrow it was at his point. So I would love, and again, the law isn't written this way, I would love the opportunity for a referee to say, all right, I see the foul, take your shot. If you don't get it, I am going to give you the penalty kick, because Brisson is the criminal in this deal, and he got away with it.
I think the other way to look at it is if he is in on goal, the other way to look at it is if the ref blows the whistle for the PK and they're like, dude, I was in on goal. You know what I mean? So there's like, once the guy's past the defender and has an opportunity to score, they're always going to let that opportunity happen. Well, and they're not likely to then come back and say, okay, you missed, so now it's a PK.
Well, there's differences, right? Like, there's all different flavors of this. In the instance last night, the time between Brisson pulling his shirt and him taking the shot is literally, less than a second. I'm not talking about a guy that pulls his shirt from outside the 18 and now has 5 steps into the box and takes the shot. This is a bang-bang play, and that's where I feel like the referee does have some latitude to make the decision to make the PK call. Because, look, I know as a Dallas fan you don't want it to be called, but Brisson was in the wrong there. He pulled his jersey, and by any means, any way you interpret the law, that is a penalty kick. The only reason why it gets called off is because the referee decided to let him play on.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate. I agree that it is a penalty. I'm not surprised that he didn't call it once the guy got in and got a shot off. That's kind of how I would look at it.
That's why you don't play advantage in the box. it gets letter of the law, but when it comes down to it, the referee's always going to err on the easy side of it. Oh, he took the shot. I don't have to make the difficult decision.
No, I get it. I'm just saying, as a fan of the game, I don't think we're doing the game a service by calling it that way, because now it's the same argument I make about how the offside rule is made currently, which is you're putting defenders in a situation where they have a no-win decision to make. Do I play the ball and potentially play a guy onside if I don't play it correctly, if I bonk it up? Or do I just stand there and let the ball go through and hope that they call it offside? So it's those types of ways the laws are written and the decisions referees make that I don't think are fair to the people that are playing the game correctly. And in this particular instance, I think Montero got robbed because he made the right choice. He just didn't finish the chance. And I would have, as a fan of just purely the game, not of Dallas or Seattle, I would have rather seen the referee go, man, that's such a bang-bang play, I'm going to give you the PK, because clearly the foul was committed by Brisson. And that's just, I don't know, that's just me.
So if it was a case of he's got a handful of shot as he's winding up to shoot, yeah, but he blew clear. He took 2 steps and then took the shot. At that point, the shot, any shirt pull doesn't have an effect.
Maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly. I haven't watched it since last night, but I don't remember him getting 2 full steps. I remember him literally getting a shirt tug and almost shooting it directly thereafter, but maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly.
I mean, yeah, I might be remembering it slower than it happened. I was actually trying to look for a clip, but,
Dan's brain works in slow-mo.
Well, here, hold on, pause it, and I'll look it up.
No, it's all right. I agree with your stance, Peter. I think you're probably right. I'm also not surprised it didn't get called.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's the unfortunate thing with the game is it's always what's right and what actually happens.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's why I said the Yamar thing, because there wasn't a foul either way there. There was an incidental contact after a fair challenge. Shoulders is totally fair. But because he picked up the ball, he forced a decision. Otherwise, it's just play on. Keeper comes and claims the ball or something like that.
Yeah. Well, overall, one of the things that I just wonder about all of this is that on 4 points, we feel really good about this team and the fact that they've at least improved. But they played a Seattle team that was not playing as well. Kansas City is a great win. I don't know. I guess the question I'm getting ready to ask you guys are we just seeing a nice turn in form? Is this are we foreseeing a good turn of fortune and form to the point where maybe we don't feel as worried about this upcoming set of games, or is this kind of like a high point and probably got the best out of the moment?
Well, certainly there's been some improvement. I don't think there's any question that they're better than they were a month ago. This is a win and a tie on the road against the first and second place team in the Western Conference. You have to give some credit for that. Now, have they righted the ship? Or is it a flawless team? Absolutely not. They still have lots of problems. We've talked about multiple of them in this show. I do feel better about this team and their chances over the next few than I did a little while ago, because they now have 3 games at home. Austin is not that great, although they just got their third DP, so he's going to play in this game against Dallas, which is awesome, of course. And then they get these same 2 teams at home, Kansas City and Seattle. So now those teams are going to be mad. They're going to come in here. But these 3 games right here, these 3 home games in a row, this is a chance for this team to really right the ship. If you can do at home what you're supposed to do, and we thought these were going to be like maybe 1 win and 2 losses here coming up. If they can actually get, wins and ties out of all those games, then they're going to be way better off than we thought they were going to be, because they still have 6 of 7 on the road after this 3. That makes this 3 super, super vital. And if you can come out of the back of these 3 having gotten a fair, decent amount of points, you're going to give yourself a legitimate shot to make the playoffs. And you might actually be able to get this thing going back and overall get the whole thing going in a really good direction. So credit to Lucci for not quitting. I mean, he managed to keep from losing the locker room. He managed to keep the team engaged, and he managed to get them playing some better football. And they did it by playing this 4-4-1-1 thing and covering up the outside backs that weren't going very well. And it has worked. So great. Let's see how good they can be with these 3 home games.
And by the way, Dan, while Buzz was talking, I found it in the highlights for the league. It's at 1:20, and yeah, I'm more convinced than ever that he should have called the penalty kick.
Peter says it's a foul.
You go watch it. I'm just saying. I'm glad he didn't, but I'm just saying if the tables were turned, we'd still be bitching up a storm about it. I mean, just absolutely throwing a hissy fit.
Ultimately, he's got to go down if he wants that penalty.
Yeah.
See,
it's not a nice thing, but it's
crime.
the reality of the game.
I know, but we shouldn't be putting players in those positions to make those decisions. A referee should be brave enough to make those
That's
calls.
something I explain to people all the time is that that I know that aren't soccer fans that whine about the diving. I was like, you have to understand the advantage rule. These guys have so much body control, and I'm not talking about this particular instance. I mean, just in general terms, these guys have phenomenal body control. When you bang into them, they don't just fall over. So it's like if you foul them and the attacking player gets fouled, if he wants the foul, he has to fall over in order to get the foul, or else you're going to play on. And that's why you have so much falling over in soccer. It's just the nature of the game because of that individual rule. Now, is it true in this case they should have called it? Probably. I don't know. How mad would they be if you call that penalty and they pull the penalty back and he missed the penalty? And then how mad are his fans that he didn't get the shot off?
Yeah.
They didn't let him have it. So it's like, it's...
Okay, watching it back, if Brisson doesn't let go, then I think you have no choice.
I don't know, man. Obviously he doesn't let go, but he lets go because Montero gets away from him and takes the shot immediately thereafter. Look, we could go on and on about it. I don't want to drag the whole pod down. I'm just making the case that my overall thing is it's not about this situation specifically. It's that I think referees should be braver about making those calls and not forcing the players to have to make a moral decision on the field in that way. I don't know. It's probably made way too much about nothing. We talked a little bit about the Hungarian kid who we bagged on a ton when he got here because of the way he got thrown on the field and out of position and just looked like a chicken with his head cut off. I would say that his performance in Kansas City, Buzz, was better than it was in Seattle, probably based on the fact that Dallas was sitting back a little bit. But I am wondering from both of you guys, if there's one thing I like about the kid is that he has that kind of Pax, I will go at you mentality, which is so rare in this team and desperately needed.
Oh, yeah. He looked really good against LA, too. I think that was the first game when we thought he looked pretty quality. Yeah, honestly, it's like they've struggled so much with the wings. O'Brien is an over-the-top guy behind the defense, right? Vargas says his game is to go at people, but he hadn't been effective at it. Paxton obviously is. So seeing Shun on the other side as a guy who can dribble at guys and beat guys, and even if he's checking back, turn and then go forward, that's priceless on the offensive end. When you can make those kind of things, you put the defense under stress. It creates space for Pepe. Goodness, I can talk. Creates space for Pepe. It creates more space for Paxton. It creates space for overloads on the outside, even though Hollingshead's not doing it lately. Anytime you have a player that can take on guys, it helps everybody around him be better.
Yeah. I'm a little worried that he's a little slight in size. He does seem to get pushed around a little too easily for this league.
Yeah, he does get knocked off the ball a little more than you would like, but remember he is young still, so maybe they can get a little upper body
Chicken fried steak.
Yeah, get him a little. I saw him eating some Mexican food the other day. Get a little pack of little pounds on. No, you want to do it right. You want to get some upper body strength. Paxton had the same problem. Paxton used to be too light.
Yeah, put him on the Paxton program.
Yeah,
look how muscled out that kid looks.
I know. Looks totally different, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Now that he's not fat.
I will say he took that elbow like a champ.
He did.
When he tried, granted, he tried running into the back of somebody, which is a foul, and caught an elbow for his troubles. But yeah, other than the weird face he pulled.
He did pull a weird face. Yeah. No, positive. If the other option is Vargas, I'm happy to leave Schoen out there. If it's to put Paxton left and O'Brien right, I'm happy to leave Paxton and Schoen out there. I think he's doing plenty of good work, even if the Kansas City game was not quite as good. Sorry, the Seattle game, sorry. But again, that's the side that Seattle was overloading. The Rodon brothers were over there. That's a tough mark, so not surprising you got overloaded on that side.
And then I want to talk a few minutes about Jesus Ferreira, who, is kind of like the Texas weather. If you don't like it, wait a few minutes and you're going to get something different.
Yeah.
And man, that kid just blows so hot and so cold, and I just can't figure out. I don't know. Every time I think I'm completely done with him, he does something great, and then he shows up and he kind of has a game like he did in Seattle, and I'm like, man, we are just wasting our time, aren't we?
Oh. Yeah, I don't. It's a question of how far back he's coming to try to find the ball. That's all it really is. When he stays high, and they can get the ball to him because they have more of a linking player in there, then I think he's fine.
Okay, but if he hadn't scored the goal against Kansas City earlier in the week, Dan, because you seem like you strongly disagree with me, would you still feel the same way about Jesus' performance in the last 2 or 3 games?
No, I didn't think he was that good in Kansas City either. Other than
okay, all right. You grunted like maybe you disagreed with me, or you thought I had overstepped my bounds.
It was so completely right that it's either so hot or so cold. He doesn't do mediocre. He's either terrible or wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's
it really
like,
is.
and that's the gamble. Do you just put him out in hope that it's going to be one of those wonderful games, or do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this entire formation, this 4-4-1-1 thing, is built on the idea of Jesus being high underneath Pepe. He has to break lines through that section of the field. He has to make those bursts into the box to slightly pull off center backs and make a little space for Pepe. If he's not doing that, if he's checking back into where the holding mids are playing, the whole thing falls apart. Pepe's on an island. He doesn't ever get the ball. There's no build forward. There's no line breaking, and the thing sucks. The whole thing works or fails based on Jesus. And that's why he gets yanked in the 60th minute or whatever it was, 68th minute for Acosta, because Acosta knew he had to go up there and play in the right spot.
All right, so now let's talk about the other person that we've spent the better part of a season bagging on, yet now I feel like I'm starting to come around a little bit, is Franco Jara, who did score the tying goal, and it's a huge goal. It's so important. I mean, that tying, scoring that goal and getting the point and leaving with the point probably means more than I think most people realize. That's a really, really big deal. And it dawned on me, based on his quote after the game, which, by the way, have you guys seen his quote in the media release after the game? It said all the right things, just talking about, being the best player he can be coming off the bench and trying to help the young players and how important scoring that goal was, this, that, and the other. And it really gave you the sense of a guy who isn't frustrated or pissed or bitter that he's making all this money and not starting, that he seemingly, at least the way he says it and the way that he performs when he comes on the field, is that at least he gets it and he's trying. And I did begin to wonder that if we find out at the end of the season, while he may not bag all the goals that Dan Hunt promised us he would, if what Lucci gets out of him is some sort of wisdom and mentorship on Pepe that makes Pepe a better player and improves on the things that he's not good at that maybe Jara is, maybe then that's the return on the $2 million investment.
Yeah, it might be that his entire salary is for that. Because, look, I tell you, like, from going to training, the guy is totally engaged. He always is training. Now, they do a little load management on him because he is 37, 39, 53, whatever he is. So, the guy works his tail off, and he does not complain, and he's always positive, and he grinds. And if you can use him, there's nothing wrong with having a veteran striker as a late game guy to come on, a dude that can hold up, a dude that can mentor Pepe. All those things are awesome. The only reason we hate him is because he gets paid $3 million or 2.9 or whatever the hell it is, even though we talked about that last week. And the fact that, like, when he was starting, he wasn't producing. Like, if you forget that and just accept what he is now and forget about what he gets paid, because he's a DP guy, so really it's only $500K on the cap, right? It's all serviceable and all legit and all beneficial to the team as it is. It's only the salary that makes you grunt and mad. What he's doing now, if he stays like this, is fine. Now, I don't want to carry him for another season, but they may be forced to. We'll see.
And if he scores those sort of goals, I don't think anyone's going to mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what he's here for.
It may be a slightly apples to oranges, but Kenny Cooper's second spell when he was that weird makeshift winger. Ask anyone what they remember from it. It's the goal against Houston. It's not how terrible most of his games were.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Now, I also want to say, as part of this entire horror experience, in my head, the way that I've built this narrative, because I really do, at the end of the day, want him to succeed, is that this kind of shift in attitude from Hara is all due to Lucci. In my mind, at some point earlier in the season, when Lucci was having to make the decision to bench Hara and keep Pepe as a starter, he took Franco to lunch. They had some cheeseburgers, and he just had a one-on-one, man-to-man conversation and somehow got Hara right with ball. And this was all Lucci's doing and his coaching and mentorship that made all this good. And I'm just hoping that's how it happened. I mean, if it didn't, don't tell me, because I don't want to know, because I've built it in my head this way.
Well, listen, again, as much as we have bagged on Lucci for the things he's doing wrong, another thing that he does right is he does not give up on guys. Remember, he didn't give up on Cobra. We were all like, Cobra sucks, cut him, get rid of him. And then all of a sudden, Cobra's banging and goes like crazy. Again, Franco Hara, we're like, he sucks, buy him out, get rid of him. Lucci didn't give up on him. He still treated him like a pro. He still uses him in whatever way he finds a benefit. It's like Obrion too, right? Everyone wants to get rid of Obrion.
Yes.
Well, Lucci's finding a way to use him as a game change, change of pace. Now, it's not always gangbusters, but at least he's not giving up on the guy. So this is where I think we have to give Lucci credit for not giving up on guys on his team that we all gave up. We all gave up on him, and he did not. And it's just like 2 or 3 times now where Lucci has stuck with a guy and found value in him.
All right. I'm so glad you mentioned this, because I totally forgot this from the Kansas City game, and I'm not sure you're aware that this happened, Buzz, because you didn't see the game. And Dan, you know the moment that I'm talking about, because it resulted in one of my favorite tweets I've ever put out, which was comparing Obrion to Will Ferrell's more cowbell character in the Saturday Night Live sketch, where he's just banging a cowbell, adding nothing to the performance, yet he just is the center of all the attention, which is the moment in the Kansas City game where Pepe gets into the box and he kind of plays the ball wide, and Obrion, I don't know if he thinks Pepe's passed in the ball or he's not paying attention, but he completely bonks the opportunity, and he actually takes the shot and hits it wide. And I thought, oh my God, please just leave him in Kansas City. It was such a terrible moment and so embarrassing. I just don't know, Buzz, what he adds. And if you're going to tell me that eventually Lucci's patience with him is going to pay off, I'm not sure I believe you.
I don't know, man. We were wrong about Cobra, and I certainly was to a certain extent wrong. I mean, still think Hara's not that great, but he has found a value in him. I'm not. No longer am I ever going to completely give up on a guy. There's a chance that Lucci can find some value in him because the pace is so strong. Listen, dude, you play. You know that when even guys are not great, if the body is on the other side of you making a blistering fast run, you have to adapt to that guy's run. That if you make that run, the center back's going to have to turn, and all of a sudden Hara's got 1 guy instead of 2, or Pepe's got 1 guy instead of 2, just because you made the run. So there is a value there, even if he shanks it wide. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying that it's better than, would it be better than Dante Sealy? You ready to run Dante Sealy out there all the time?
Oh, yeah, well, only because he's a kid, and I want to see what the kid's capable of, and I love him getting the experience. I appreciate the fact that Jadir goes out there and he just works his tail off. But Dan, back me up. That moment in the Kansas City game was his Christian Coman kicking the goalpost instead of the ball moment.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of, actually. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm down for him getting the last 20 minutes just to run at tired legs late on, But
why isn't Sealy doing that? Shouldn't Sealy be doing that?
Does Sealy even make the bench?
Yeah,
honestly. And that tells you something.
Well, all right, fair enough.
Sealy also still has that habit of where he tries to hold on to the ball past too many people, whereas, Oberyn's running straight at them. They're chasing. They're blowing out their asses. It's just a little bit different in that stage. I'd rather have Sealy before Oberyn.
I accept I can be wrong in this instance, but I'm right about that being his Christian Coman moment.
You may be right. He may be utter crap forever. I'm just saying that after Lucci has twice now not given up on a guy, I'm not going to give up on anybody ever. That's not true.
Although we will refer to him as Forrest Gump from now on.
Yeah.
Listen, speed kills. You cannot teach speed. There's a value to
and
speed.
They don't have a lot of it on the team either,
I know.
right? You know,
Yeah.
Pepe's not exactly super fast. Paxton is pretty fast, but not crazy fast. They don't have a ton of speed on this team.
Yeah, Paxton's quick 10 yards. He's not quick 50 yards.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, well, look, at the end of the day, complaining aside, this, that, and the other, 4 points on 2 road games, the first win of the season, has got to make everybody feel much better than we did this time a week ago. But let's also add in the fact that Dallas is now undefeated in their last 3 games, and man, if anything feels good, it's that right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sitting
Championship form.
it is championship form. And look at them crawl back up the standings now into 9th place on 18 points. They're well over a point per game at 1.06. And as I look at the standings and I look all the way over to the right in the away column, look at that sweet, clean 1 win sitting right there, just shining bright for Dallas.
Well, Portland has 1 win, and Houston has 0 wins, and Vancouver has 0 wins, and Minnesota has 1 win. Life on the road's hard in MLS, man.
Yes. In fact, let's just put this into perspective. In the West, there are only 2 teams with true winning records on the road. That's Seattle and Kansas City. And then Colorado is 500 on the road at 3-3-1. Everybody else has a losing record on the road. And only really 4 teams have, well, no, I guess there's some with 2. Yeah. So anyway, you get my point.
Yeah.
If you ever want to really blow your mind, go look at the history of Major League Soccer and the average away record for teams, and you will be shocked at how not just bad, crummy it is from year to year, for sure.
Well, look at where they're sitting now. Seattle, Salt Lake City, Real Salt Lake is 7th at 21 points. Dallas is 3 points back of that in 9th. They're 2 points behind Portland, and they're right there with San Jose. I mean, it's a big log jam, and even LAFC's on 23, right? I mean, it's like there's 2 games different between 5th and 13th, basically, in the West.
Minnesota, Salt Lake, and Portland do have a game in hand, but your point is
Sure.
made. It is
fair enough.
jam-packed.
I mean, we're 17 games into the season. The season is half over, and they're 3 points behind playoffs with 17 games to play. I mean, anything literally in this league. I mean, you probably can't catch Kansas City, but pretty much, or Seattle, but pretty much anybody else you probably can catch. You know, if you get on a hot enough streak. This is what other teams have done. Seattle always does this. Portland used to do this. Get hot midseason and go from there. You know, I'm not saying this team's going to do that because I actually think it has flaws that it can't overcome to be that good. But I definitely think they can still make the playoffs, as crazy as that is.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves because coming up is the date that we've all been dreading. North Austin FC is coming to town.
Yeah.
Now, we need to talk about this because for all the good vibes we've had of getting 4 points in 2 road games, something's about to happen on Saturday up at Toyota Stadium that I think is going to create a lot of conversation, a lot of consternation, and a lot of frustration. And that is Austin is bringing an assload of weird Austinites up to Toyota Stadium, and I have a really big concern that they are going to dominate the proceedings on the evening. And then that also then coincides with one of the weirdest, parentheses, dumbest, close parentheses, promotional ideas I've seen in some time. And I don't know which one of you, or if you want me to explain it, but let's just get into this real quick.
I actually think it's genius.
No, it is not genius.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah.
It's such a lame 5-year-old.
Oh, no. It's the best.
It's terrible, but for FC Dallas' standards and what you expect of them, it's genius.
Okay, so let's explain to everybody. Austin is coming to town for the first time. They have a army of buses. What is the number up to on the number of supporter group tickets that we've heard? 1,200 or something?
They were allowed 600 away tickets. They've also been purchasing home tickets. So the number that was given out to expect is somewhere in the region of 2,000.
Now, let's just put that into perspective. The new supporters group safe standing area that has been relatively packed over the last couple of games.
450.
Yeah. So if you think that, just take 450 people in that one corner is now going to literally be 4 times as large in terms of an Austin group. Are they sitting throughout the stadium, or are they all sitting together somewhere? Do we know?
I mean, there'll be 600 together, and the rest will be spread out somewhere.
Do we know where the 600 are sitting?
Nope, because they keep moving the away section, and there hasn't been away fans lately.
So the promotion that we're speaking of, and again, I guess your mileage may vary, is the either ingenious or stupid or somewhere in between decision to also coincide this with Dallas Stars Night, which means people will come to the stadium in theory wearing their Dallas Victory green, which then will give the FC Dallas front office the ability to say, look at all these Dallas Stars fans, when the vast majority of them are actually Austin FC fans.
Yeah, you're going to be able to talk the whole game about how great it is the Dallas Stars came out in force, all these Dallas Stars fans. It's going to be awesome. And listen, there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think it's fantastic. People are going to talk about it. It's going to be crazy. They're going to do there's going to be green crap on the lights. I mean, who knows what else is going to happen. It's going to be great.
I'm glad I'm covering the Denton game.
I don't know what bit you're running, Buzz, but I don't.
It's going to be craptastic.
Listen, your road team's bringing in 2,000 fans into your building.
That's great. I appreciate that.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying is like they're all going to be wearing green. If you can think of any way to diffuse that, even if it's a bit, and just have like guys in Stars green showing up, so there'll be the green everywhere, and it's like it's not about them, it's about the Stars. I love that. I think it's awesome.
My big concern is that from this, the reaction in the front office won't be one of facepalm or embarrassment or shame. It will be, holy crap, look at all these tickets we sold.
Yes. 100%. They sold a bunch of tickets. They don't care.
Yeah, I know. And that really drives me bonkers.
Look, if you don't want away fans, just limit away fans. Don't let them buy tickets. But they want to sell tickets, so they do.
The big problem you've got is it's great in DFW. You can say, hey, look at all these Stars fans. You can't say that around the country. You can't say that in MLS circles. All you can say is, hey, look how many people are in green in the Red Team Stadium.
Is it a national broadcast?
Doesn't matter. It's still going to get shared around ESPN Plus, highlights, everything else. It's still going to...
You don't think people pick up on that narrative, that idea?
No, absolutely not.
Nobody in New England's going to know anything about it being Dallas Stars Night. In fact, of all the other markets combined, the only people that are going to know about the Dallas Stars joke are the people in Austin and the people in Dallas.
Right. Does anybody watch this team outside of Dallas?
Well, they do when it comes to making them the butt of the attendance joke. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well.
I mean, every TIFO I've designed within 10 minutes of it being raised, there was a Reddit thread and all this other stuff. Like, people watch everything in this league. Yeah,
I think it's great that Austin has this early enthusiasm and people are showing up and people are traveling. They won that game against, and good Lord, the fact that they beat Houston and Austin last night in that interesting game and almost gave it up despite the fact they played a large portion of the game a man up, is going to give them all kinds of enthusiasm to come up here and just create havoc. And I just wish we could see a front office make the effort to get a home crowd show up in the same way that Austin can get people to travel 4 hours up I-35. Yep. Now, obviously, the vast majority of the stadium is going to be filled with FC Dallas fans, but they won't be in the same mode as these Austin fans will be in.
Well, look, if you find it embarrassing as an organization, number one, win the game. Number two, market and fill up your damn stadium, right? If it's embarrassing, it's because that's what this franchise does, is embarrassing stuff.
Yeah, but at the end but Buzz, here's the problem. The people that are embarrassed are not the people in the front office. It's not Dan and Clark Hunt that are embarrassed. It's not the ticket. It is people like you and me and the average fan that are embarrassed. It's the people having to wear the shirt and pay the money.
I'm not embarrassed. I'm aware of what this team's been for 25 years. It doesn't embarrass me. I'm just saying that, like, if anyone's going to be upset about
Stockholm syndrome.
Right. Well, it's clear that the ownership's not going to be upset, right? The only people
you're just
be
numb
upset,
to it. You're jaded and numb, is what you are.
Yeah. Well, I told you a long time ago, the only thing I care about is that there's a Division I team for me to watch. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
We spent so much of our lives without any of this.
Yeah.
I get it. No, that's a very good attitude to have about it.
Yeah. I half my life, I didn't have a pro team to cheer from. Most of these kids grew up with the team. So I have a very different perspective. So to me, it doesn't bother me that a bunch of road fans come here. I actually think it's cool that a bunch of road fans are going to come here. I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere. I think that our Dallas supporters are going to be yelling at the Austin guys and vice versa. There'll be a bunch of poser chants or whatever back and forth. And the bottom line is, win the damn game. That's what matters.
Well, let's talk about the game. Do you have any? Have you had a chance to kind of put into your head how you think Lucci is he going to roll out the same 11? Is he going to make Owen and Steve were talking about Lucci potentially doing a lot of rotation on this game and what that may mean.
Well, a lot of rotation is a relative term. Lucci doesn't do heavy rotation. When you win a game on the road, when you haven't won all year, and then you tie a game on the road when you haven't done a tie on the road all year, back-to-back games, you're going to carry the same 11 forward. The only thing that would affect that would be Lucciisms like Edwin Cerrillo having a little bit of a poorer game in the last one at Seattle. And Lucci loves Brian Acosta. And Brian Acosta's been MVP form other than maybe 2 games. He's been the MVP. So it's entirely plausible that regardless of the fact that you had 2 good results, why not bring up Brian Acosta back, particularly at home, particularly when the problems you've had have been the build through the middle of the field. So that solves a lot of that. That's number 1. Number 2, Brisson's been not that great, and his last time I checked, still on this yellow card thing. And Hedges is getting better, and Martinez is getting better physically. Hedges is ahead of Martinez. So is Hedges ready to start for probably Brisson, in my opinion? Those are the only 2. Otherwise, there's no question that you roll out the exact same team. Just how much does Lucci want to get his real captain, Matt Hedges, back? And how much does he want to get his biggest, high-paid, most valuable DP back, Acosta? Those are the 2 things. Otherwise, you don't change anything.
Okay, well, all of that means Saturday night at Toyota Stadium at 7:30 p.m. It is the debut of Austin versus Dallas at Toyota Stadium, like I said, and it should be an interesting scene, to say the least. All right, the other big news of the week was the fact that Ricardo Pepi was named to the All-Star team. He was a coach's pick. Is that what
coach's pick?
Announced? Yeah. Okay. And who's the coach?
I believe it's Bob Bradley.
Is it Bob?
I think so.
Interesting. So, congratulations to Ricardo. I hope he got a little pep, extra little bonus in there for making that. There was a cool picture of him getting to pose with the All-Star jersey at the end of that. And then the other thing about the Seattle game, which will convert us to Kit Talk, loved it that Dallas wore the white shorts with the blue socks and the red shirts up in Seattle. I thought that was a very, very sharp look.
Oh, you buried the lead. That was the best part.
I did. I'm sorry. I should have started the whole effing podcast with that. White shorts. It's the best.
Kid News talk should have led.
Yeah, Kit News is the best, for sure.
Those
All
are
right.
best numbers.
I mean, how long have I been telling you the white shorts were going to be awesome with that combo? The red blue socks.
Haven't they worn the white shorts with the red shirt at some point this season already?
The Academy does, not the first team. That's the first time.
Where have we seen the white shorts then this season? Because I know I've seen the red numbers with the blue stripes somewhere. Was that when they wore them with the powder blues? Is that where I've seen the white?
They wore white and white with the powder blues, and they did a white with the red. They wore the white with white socks somewhere. I can't remember where it was. I have to look it up. But that was the first time we've seen the red, white, blue, which, if you remember, was what I suggested. Like, if you're going to kill hoops, pick that red, white, blue as your iconic pattern with shirt, short, and socks, and that way, like Manchester United except blue, you know, that's a good look, and it's a substantial look, an identifiable look. You can do a lot with that.
Yeah, it was quite dandy. By the way, speaking of kit talk, I saw a new Luton Town kit the other day. Dan,
the away one.
Yeah, what was interesting about it was some dark pattern. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's like a navy blue, and then it's got blue and orange kind of stripes. It's like a throwback to a striped away shirt we had in the early 90s.
Well,
because the last one was the crazy one with the Umbro diamonds everywhere, which was the 1990 home shirt.
All right, the other big and very, very important news is that local soccer fans have a choice to make on Saturday night. If you don't want to see the ridiculousness of the Austin people in town, you could travel a little farther north and enjoy a championship game in the NPSL as Denton hosts Tulsa. And this is a big, exciting event for the Denton Diablos.
Yeah, I mean, the second season, and they make the national championship. That effectively qualifies them for the U.S. Open Cup next season. And they also confirmed that anyone in a green jersey at that game is definitely a Tulsa Athletic fan, not a Dallas Stars fan.
This is so just for people who haven't been paying attention, the NPSL would be what, fifth tier in the pyramid? Or sixth?
Fourth.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the same as USL 2 underneath USL 1, which is third.
Oh, see, I didn't even think it was that high. I thought it was a tier below USL 2.
No, it and USL 2 are exactly the same. It's mostly college players home
Let's
on
be
vacation.
honest, is still above NISA.
It is, yes. Well, congratulations to Damon and his team. And, man, they look like they're having a good time. Their kits are awesome, the red and the black. And it should be a good scene. It's at Denton High School? Is that what it is?
Denton High School, Saturday, 7:30. So the exact same kickoff time as the FC Dallas game. They've been a bit unlucky that all these playoff games they've had at home have fallen on FC Dallas home games. They've absolutely killed it. They obviously hosting. They are the highest seed remaining. After coming off a 4-3 win in extra time in Cleveland in the national semi-final. It should be a great one. They've had Trevor Aman kind of blown up for them. He scored 7 goals in the playoffs now. He scored in every game.
Wow.
To put him on 13 for the season. He was actually on Sirius XM the other day. They're taking that pretty seriously. But, anyone who's not at the FC Dallas game, because, hopefully not because they've sold an Austin fan their tickets. But, yeah, I'm going to be there covering it for the blogs, so come hang out.
Yeah, I hope Denton as a community shows up for this game, and people who are curious about what's going on take a moment to go watch, because it would be great to see a big crowd for that game and for that team, because that's really quite an achievement to have made the final of their league in their second season.
That club has a little bit of ambition. I don't know that they'll be in the NPSL forever. Just a guess on my part.
Oh, they won't.
No, I agree. There, like I said, we've talked about this. There are several of these small kind of amateur soccer teams that have big ambitions, and Damon and the Denton Diablos certainly is one of them. And we wish them the best. So go Diablos. All right. Anything else that I have forgotten to bring up in the pod that you guys would like to do before I do my promotional read?
Well, I don't know if you know that, because of the weird delay at the start of the season, sometimes this season there are team of the week or player of the week just off of the midweek games. So today, an MLS team of the week came out. And on the bench from Dallas are Jimmy Maurer and Frank O'Hara.
No.
MLS team of the week bench, Frank O'Hara.
Man, how are those decided? Is that just some intern
no
up in New York City?
I have no clue.
We haven't named this guy in a while. Let's throw him on there. He scored a goal in the last minute. He deserves at least the bench.
There's some weird metrics that's sponsored by Audi, and the metric is stupid enough that if you score a penalty, you get fewer points than if you miss the penalty and then turn in the rebound.
I thought the Audi index was dissolved after last season.
No, I don't think so.
No, sometimes half of the team of the week has these Audi graphics. I mean, I have no idea what's going on.
Anyone who scored a goal gets that.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. I don't know. See? Yeah.
You get an Audi ring.
Yeah.
Just one. Not all 4, just one.
Sometimes they're a little wonky. If I was going to pick a Dallas player, I would have picked Tafari for the bench, or even to start. I mean, Graham Zusi made the first team of the week, so,
which is baffling.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, here we go with the promotional read. Third Degree, the podcast, is brought to you by Soccer 90. Soccer 90 is your source for all your FC Dallas, U.S. national team, and international club gear. Does Denton Diablos gear count as international club gear? Just asking for a friend.
Oh, yeah, no, huge, big time.
All right. Everything from Chivas to Chelsea to Juventus and even the new USA gear. And because you are our personal favorite Third Degree pod listener, you're going to get 25% off your order. Just use the code Third Degree. Don't tell anybody else. Just use it for yourself at checkout at Soccer90. The word soccer, the number 9 and the number 0, then a dot, then com is all for you. You're welcome. All right, Dan. Thanks for all your support and your insight. Thanks for actually watching the game. And remembering you recorded.
And thanks for watching that penalty incident.
Well, we disagree, but we can be friends, right?
No.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. And Buzz, don't forget to record the damn games. People are counting on you, man.
I know, I forget. And by the way, I don't think Soccer 90 has Diablos gear, but Diablos has a very nice store in Denton, so you should go check that out.
Opposite East Side, which is very nice, cheap drinks.
Very nice store. Yeah.
Maybe we should call our friends at Soccer 90 and say, hey, have you thought about carrying Denton Diablos gear in your store?
Oh, yeah, they should.
I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't get us in trouble for saying that. Hey, and by the way, I did get my official FC Dallas Curious T-shirt, and it is sexy, and I can't wait to wear it in public, and everybody should go buy an FC Dallas Curious shirt, especially if you're a listener to this particular pod. So thank you, FC Dallas Curious fan. We appreciate you listening, and we'll speak to you next week, hopefully on the back of more points of another edition of Third Degree, the podcast.
Go Denton and anyone that's not from the Domain area and not north of Austin.
Yeah, that was too much.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.